This is where devotion meets the beast. A space for honest conversation where growth isn't something we perform, but something that we live. Each week we come together in curiosity, devotion, and a willingness to sit with both the sacred and the messy parts of being human. Wherever you're listening from, take a deep exhale and settle in. This is where devotion meets the beast.
Hello.
Hi.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you, Mel.
So nice to see you always. How are
Thank you so much.
you? How are you feeling today?
Yeah, I've had a big week and I'm a bit depleted. We do record this at the end of a week on a Sunday. It's sort of like, I've traveled I've had an emotionally big week and some physical issues, and it's just been as I find, I mean, I'm not blaming aging, but it's a little bit more common in the last couple of years, having stuff come up. But yeah, I'm happy to be here as always. And I've been, really thinking, I wanted to say to you, how have you been since last week's podcast? Because that was just such a beautiful, raw share. I just wanted to say hello and see how you've been and how you feel about the vulnerability around that share.
Yeah, it's funny actually. I have been feeling very vulnerable. That is the word, I would say. I feel like I've only ever spoken like that in therapy, and when you're in therapy, you feel like you're protected in this bubble and nothing can hurt you and judge you or shame you or anything. And yeah, it felt really raw actually recording it, knowing that that's actually going to go out to literally the world, like anyone could access that vulnerable share. So yeah, I'm feeling a little jolted by it, but I also feel really empowered to share my story because I feel like it's not common to talk about such heavy topics a lot of the time, and people so often say surface level in friendships and work relationships and even just relationships really, and so it feels really powerful actually to be sharing in this.
It is really powerful, and I think, and I really appreciate your capacity to be that vulnerable and come back. And I'll have a turn down the road, of course, when I'm triggered by something, and that's the whole point of this podcast. It is a medicine of how we have our skill set to fuel the devotion to what is happening around us, in what upsets us internally, memories, or literally in life. In life right now, you absolutely demonstrated in such a beautiful way how you used your devotion skills to doing all that journaling. I think you said 11 or 13 pages. You just vomited out of you. I woke up in the middle of the night last night and wrote like 4 or 5 pages journaling. There was just stuff there that needed to come out. And so when you did that, and what came of it, and the raw touching of your literal tears was your grief as a access the grief of the little girl live with us and the woman that you are now. The grief, the way you did sort of name the way you sit with your father now isn't with all that grief sitting there, but the little girl in you absolutely came through, Mel. So
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And it's been a while since therapy, like deep therapy practice, where I actually touched those types of places. And yeah, I definitely felt it. Like the trauma hangover, the grief hangover, whatever you want to call it, is real. Like that was Sunday night. I think Monday I woke up, I just was not ready to do life. And thankfully I don't work Mondays at the moment. So I didn't do life. I got up and I had some food and I lounged around and I was tired and emotional, and I just sat with that for most of the week actually. I think it took me like 3 or 4 days to fully come back out of that, and I also premenstrual at the time, so I think it was a double whammy. I was not a fun person to be around, but yeah, I took a couple of days off work as well, which I never used to do. So again, just like stepping into that devotion of when you are experiencing something, devoting to your healing and space to actually do that rather than just like going back into life and moving on. So yeah, it was a process, but I'm feeling a lot better now.
I'm so glad. And that's actually a really good point too. Oh, how amazing! Because when you do have something cathartic happen, you do have a deep therapeutic process, or without a therapist, that was having really given yourself permission to take time to grieve. And in our society, gosh, I've heard too many stories where people were like rushing back to work, rushing back to a life, and escaping grief. And yeah, you just did it beautifully. I was at a cafe yesterday, and I got she reminded me of you. She had long dark hair, and so I just realized that now. So I saw, my gosh, I saw little Mel and her dad yesterday, I think in that time zone, you know. So I was at a cafe yesterday, and there was I guess a single dad. It was just a dad and his daughter, and he didn't have a ring on. I actually did look because I was almost going to go and talk to him. I felt so upset with what I saw. But he had his coffee. He's sitting at the table in the cafe. He's got AirPods in both ears. He's just looking down on his phone. And she's opposite him on the table with her phone. And honestly, she was about 8 or 9 years old. And I just kept like looking over, like now my hypervigilance for that little girl was really tuned in. And so I easily, from the time I first noticed it to when I left, they hadn't changed position. And it was a good 20, 25 minutes of that was the girl's cafe experience with her dad. And no conversation, just, it was so shocking. I felt so compelled to, it was so hard for me not to tap him on the shoulder and say, hey man, is this really okay? There's so much absence, so many absent fathers to the little girls, you know, coming back to the theme of your father. And you didn't have mobile phones in that when you were that age. But that is kind of like, that was just the metaphor, but it's live, it's a lived experience of the absent father. And insignificant the feminine was even in that experience of, you know, like the joy of going to a cafe and she gets a special drink and her dad's not tuned into her at all in any conversation.
I do think that has like changed quite a lot though. Like it is a big generational thing, because I recall even when I was, you know, when that was me and my father, he was actually quite present when I was little. He wasn't absent when, like, before all of the absence. He wasn't actually...
In that age group, you mean?
In that age group, he was quite present, and there were times where he wasn't, like, he would sit me in front of the TV. I mean, by my choice though. I loved that he had Foxtel. My mum never had Foxtel, and I only saw him every second weekend. So this was like the most exciting thing ever for me, that I could go to his house and watch Foxtel. So if it was like a rainy day, he would just plonk me in front of the TV and I would just binge watch Hannah Montana and mostly Hannah Montana. And I think now, like, yeah, there probably were parts where, you know, he was off doing whatever he was doing. But if we would go somewhere and do something, he was actually quite present. And I think it's that next generation that have brought in like the phones and the kids having iPads, and it's just like the amount of times you see people in like at dinners or obviously in cafes, like your situation where the kids just got the iPad and the adults are talking, or you know, your situation that you experienced. That's actually quite sad. But I do think that's the generations that are coming up, which is so scary to think.
It is scary. I mean, I think it's like, you did say something that made me twig. I obviously grew up with television, live to air television, and that was on all the time. And that filled up the space, you know, but we did have some conversation. But TV was a big thing. And look, to me, it's like bringing the TV of that era where everyone just, I know lots of people like the TV's always on. And it's like bringing the TV to a cafe and just having the TV on, so you're still not talking. So you said you were binge watching. Like, you loved it, your dad had Foxtel, but you're basically still not talk. I mean, I'm not saying you never talked, but there's a whole day that he's happy that you're in front of that watching your shows, and to you that's pleasurable, but you're still not getting all of your dad.
Absolutely.
You know, you're not doing an outing or a hike or a some sort of activity where once a fortnight's not a lot of time with your daughter, let alone when he really left.
Yeah. That actually just really landed for me. You know what I think sometimes, this could be quite controversial to say, but men, and I find it in other men in my life as well, I think that they seem to find it difficult being present, doing things that don't necessarily bring them joy. Like being present, with your daughter at a cafe just chatting about, God knows, she'd probably go on about all sorts of random stuff and dreams and things that she has, which is beautiful, and you should want to listen to that. But then if, like, for example, the little girl was to ask him about, I don't know, motorbikes, or if he was into boats, or, whatever he was into, then I feel like they engage more. It's like this level of, like, I don't know if this is just my experience, but like there's this level of the engagement is only there when
it's their conversation, it's on their terms. Is that what you mean?
It's on their terms, it's something that they're interested in, it's like it's something that brings them alive rather than allowing somebody else to bring them alive through story and connection. And I think it's just masculine energy. There's not as much value in connection as it is for the feminine. Like a lot of feminine nature is like, we value connection and love and joy and all of those things. But it takes like a masculine to be quite balanced with his feminine to actually appreciate those values.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking when I left the cafe, like in my fantasy of what would I even say to him? And other than, what the hell, man? But what the
Other
damn
than shaking him?
I would be like, why not just have a colouring book? She could have brought a colouring book and you could have coloured it in with her opposite the table with your texters and had a little chat. Like, it's not hard. Take a packet of Uno cards to the cafe, not the phone. I mean, obviously the phone's with you, but it's not even a bridge to her. It's a space between her. There's just do something fun and engaging. Of course, it's not like he had to be interested in all her little foibles and whatever she was going to say, but but there was no invitation. Like, to have AirPods in both ears, it's a blunt line of, I'm not here to listen to you or see you because I'm looking at my screen. Like, it was completely checking out. But yeah, I agree with you too. I mean, adult men definitely play lots of games, video games, games on their phone. I've had that frustration of that. It's like, why would you go and, like, you're an adult, you're my age, why are you doing that? But it's just a tool where they're able to disassociate, that they'll probably find another tool to disassociate because it's too hard to stay intimate and present all the time. Of course, you don't have to do it 24/7, but I mean, I didn't get alone. I came from a large family. I didn't get alone time. I certainly didn't get taken to a cafe or anything, and had that time to connect with my father like that. It's a more common thing for your age and obviously younger. Gosh, were there even cafes when I was a young girl?
You're not that old.
I remember probably where we lived. I really genuinely don't remember. There was the Chinese shop, takeaway, and the fish and chip shop. I don't remember a cafe. I don't know if there was. But it's interesting with our listeners, and they can give us feedback. But it's like, there's so many moments where, I don't know if I said it last week, but death by 1,000 cuts and grief. Like, that girl would have been feeling yesterday some level of grief. Well, Dad's not interested in me. And then forming belief systems. But he truly wasn't interested. And sure, that's a 20-minute window to their relationship, but it certainly wasn't a good view of it. And I think that I hope that the listeners can sort of go back to some of their memories and do some journaling and really discuss out loud, writing it, or with a friend, how their relationship to their father really is, or how it was. Is he there? Did he stand with me? Did he look after me? Did he take interest in me? Children in my generation were to be seen and not heard. That's a very big theme. But that did carry on. And I saw it yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, it's still there. And there must be so many women and men out there who are carrying small pockets of grief where they haven't been met by their father and they felt not chosen by their father. Like you that choice, your words last week were so profound. And it's a bit of a epidemic of, there's a lot of trauma, and we're in the self-help industry, we're in this podcast. The devotion to the beast is because of needs that were not met from our childhood. And how we're carrying the injuries of that. And you beautifully shared yours last week. And that's just one theme, one moment. You've got even more, I'm sure, there with you could share about your dad and pain around your dad. But we must do it. We must sit in the devotion to this quest, because we do want our adult relationships with the men to be more positive experiences, more love, more heart.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the scariest part when you do have either an absent father or a challenging relationship with your father, is the impact that then has on your masculine relationships, the type of men you end up attracting and being in relationship with, how you navigate those relationships when you experience the similar behavior that you might have experienced from your father. Like, I've been through many a times of that, like I could speak to, but I won't right now. But it's quite sad, really. Honestly, it's not even just absent. I feel like the absent father is a very big beast, and like we could speak on that for a long time. I also think that it falls into like just absent parents in general, because the world these days, everybody is so distracted and dissociated. Like there is something going on everywhere. Like if you watch the news, there's something new every single day to be distracted by and consumed by, instead of being in your world with your family. And I do know many families that do have this lovely nourishing bubble, and they're very present with their children, but there's also this sense of absence in a lot of them as well. And it's because we've come from, watching that little girl and her dad in the cafe. Like, she's learning to disassociate the masculine in that moment. That's what's happening. Like, he's gonna carry that. He doesn't need me, he doesn't want to talk to me, he's not present. Like, that is gonna be drilled somewhere in here for like until she deals with it in therapy, probably.
I should have sent her my business card. Not talk to him and say, hey, give me a call when you're old enough.
In a few years, honey, I'll see you. Yeah.
I'll see you down the road.
Who knows? You might have a full circle moment, and she'll end up on your couch one day saying, my father never paid any attention to me, and you'll be like, this is her. This is that little girl.
I mean, and also for men, with my male clients and man friends, like we can talk about this. You're right. This is a huge piece, but men don't get to express grief very easily. Don't cry very easily. They'll have an eruption of what would be identified as grief, and have to quickly get rid of it and push it away.
Why do you think that is, from your experience?
I do respect that young boys are given instructions to not express grief and to not cry. Definitely, my male clients, literally, their dad would say, "Don't cry, don't be a sissy." I remember something, don't give girls that power over you. Yet he could be he was falling in love, that's the first love, and like absolute shocking advice. But of course, that father and his father also got shocking advice. And so it's not to hate on the parents. These conversations aren't to hate on them, but to acknowledge the injury that does come from the lifestyle that we all grew up in. But I definitely believe that men are burdened by the fact that they can't access what's commonly used, their inner feminine. Like, to be a balanced person, is to balance your inner feminine and masculine and have access to both. And they are literally programmed to not access their feminine, therefore not respect the feminine, and always have this reserved, I would say, ache. They must have this big ache that they can't fall into their feminine because they couldn't really fall into their mother because their father wouldn't allow it. And I mean, that would be an amazing thing to talk more on too, that men do need compassion. I'm not, obviously there's certain circumstances where no, but understanding, and I do believe the feminine ultimately does call out the healing from the masculine anyway, if he allows it.
Yeah, I find that so interesting because a lot of men that I've dated, they do have that complex where they always have to be tough, or, if you ask them how they're feeling, like, they'll never really tell you how they're feeling, but you can feel this sense of, it's not that they're not telling you not to dump on you, and they're not telling you because they don't want you to see all the parts of them. And I think that's the sad part, because that's where the block in connection between men and women actually falls. Like, if you're not going to fully let somebody see all of the parts of you, then how do you expect to create a unity? And I find it really sad. I think that there is a lot more, maybe in the past, like, I don't know. Do you think that maybe in the past, like, 3 to 5 years, where, like, this energy of masculine men are all coming together and talking about their feelings and supporting each other and, actually opening up? I've seen a lot of groups up here on the Gold Coast of, like, brotherhoods, and they, will go on retreats and they'll fully connect with each other and talk about their inner child and talk about how their father spoke to them about women, and start to, like, nourish this relationship again. And it's actually quite beautiful to see, and hopefully that means that we're sort of coming out of that era. But yeah, I think I do want to also, sort of say, like, this conversation isn't to hate on men, it isn't to hate on absent parents, it isn't to hate on anybody. It's actually just to bring awareness to something that most people aren't aware of, because, like what happened to me in the last episode, when you're dissociated, you're actually not even aware of what's happening. So this conversation is to bring awareness to that, so that you can devote time to acknowledging when you are disassociating, especially around your children, and giving them more, like, an invitation to give them more presence and love, and making sure that they don't feel like you're absent when you're literally right next to them.
Yeah, it is amazing. There is a growing community of men groups, and they're incredible men that are showing up to sit in those raw conversations and share from their pain and their history, and be supported by the masculine at the same time. And I wish there was just so many more men doing that, because, well, the world would be a better place, and there'd be much more functioning. The marriage divorce rates would change if the heart of the man could come into the relationship, because there's protective masculine, and then there's fear, denial, and anger, disassociated anger, and passive aggressive love avoidancy, which of course can happen in both sexes, but it's pretty common in men, because that's part of the injury of, be quiet, shut up, don't feel. Encourages the love style, the love language of a love avoidant, and that's quite a bit of work for the man to go, wow, I consciously see that and I'm going to work my way out of that. But they can. Then there's support groups, amazing books out there to support that kind of journey.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Should we pull a card now? We've been chatting for half an hour. Do you think we should finish on a card?
Yeah, let's finish on a card. See
We
what
did
the universe
see
has.
what if something comes. But yeah, I love and prayers to all the little children, boys and girls out there, inside of all the people listening and the ones not, to hold their center. Yeah. Now this card is Distant Shores. I'm not sure. 18. Your soul is yearning for more. The divine is all, and there are no limits to what can be experienced by the soul. The soul is so hungry for the divine reunion that it will seek out whatever is needed to get there, even if that means journeying to strange or exotic shores for expanded experience, or men groups. That might be the exotic shore. You may feel this soul impulse as an urge to travel or try something new, or let go of the limitations of your mind and see how your current life can bring in the new and let go of what was once familiar. The art of passionate soul is to be able to see which is new and fresh even in what is known. And sometimes we can use help for inspiration to help open the mind and heart to receive more. It's time for you to reach out for distant shores that are calling you, beloved. Don't pack your bags with too much, though. Travel light so that you may receive what's coming. So the benefit of this card is to go on an internal journey, move your body, maybe go into other spaces, unplug yourself from a short time from the phone so that you can receive a different energy and maintain what they call a spiritual practice. So that was pretty poignant and beautiful.
Absolute perfection as per usual.
Yeah. I remember Eat, Pray, Love, Elizabeth Gilbert, she went and she literally traveled to find herself. And of course, she's done a redo of all of that years later. But I remember her saying in an interview with Oprah that I watched many years ago, and she said, you don't have to get on a plane and do what I did and go to these countries. You can do it at home, do it internally, seek the remedy, do the devotion, because hers really was about devotion. Practice the devotion to expanding yourself and breaking open from some of those belief systems and patterns. So blessings for you, for yours, my love.
See you next week.
Bye, guys.
We're so honored to have you here with us today. It's time now to take another deep exhale. Carry only what landed in your heart and leave the rest behind. Until next time, this is where devotion meets the beast.